Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into To The Point Podcast. We guys are all doing well. What a weekend in sports. I don't know how I'm going to get into all of it today. So much to chat about. Baseball storylines, which crazy contracts are being handed out. I think they're both stupid. I'll talk about that today, hopefully. NFL, always lots to talk about. Got some big opinions on that. Got a new MVP. And after yesterday, you might think there's a new best team in the AFC. No, there might be a new second best team in the AFC, as I've been teasing for a number of weeks. We'll chat about that. Pornstar Jimmy goes down. Is his replacement Mr. Irrelevant? Or is it Baker Mayfield? Wait to see about that. Tua, not a great game yesterday. Played like crap. Chaos, Steelers, Raiders. Toronto, Tampa Bay, Saturday night. Another overtime loss for the Leafs. They can't win an overtime game to save their life. Great game. No, wait, it wasn't because the refs ruined it. Brock Besser, uncomfortable. There is so much to chat about today. Not to mention UFC, which Saturday night had a fight night, which, if you're not familiar, is a free event that was pay-per-view worthy. And the final pay-per-view of 2022 is this upcoming weekend in Las Vegas, Nevada, UFC 282. We will preview that this week. This week on the podcast, Seamus will join me tomorrow. Thursday, Matt Wright will join. We will do Big Money Friday on a Thursday. Talk about all the games. We'll get into college football as well. A lot of spicy things from there over the weekend. Talk about some bowl games. Nobody enjoys a college football bowl game on a random Monday afternoon more than Matt Wright and myself. No show Friday. Off to get some work done at the shop, if you will. Getting a couple drills in my body parts, getting some ink done. So that's what's on the docket this week. Shows from today until Thursday. No show Friday. We'll be back a week from today. Where do we start? Let's start here. Before the season began, the NFL season, I should put in, I had the San Francisco 49ers playing the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl in the second weekend in February. I was very confident in both those picks. And through 13 weeks this evening after the must-see New Orleans Saints Tampa Bay Buccaneers Monday Night Football game, I was very confident. I felt great about the play of Pornstar Jimmy following Trey Lance's injury. Christian McCaffrey addition. The other side, you got Patrick Mahomes. You got Travis Kelce. Andy Reid. How could you not be confident? But then in the first quarter of yesterday's game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Miami Dolphins, crisis happened. On the first drive, 3rd and 8 play, Jimmy Garoppolo was sacked and brought down in an awkward position to the ground. He leaves the game on a cart, and it's revealed after the game that Pornstar Jimmy, as I affectionately call him, has a broken foot. Multiple breaks in the foot. He is done for the season, needs surgery. Well, if this wasn't the San Francisco 49ers, I'd be perplexed. I'd be concerned, and I would be telling you today, if you have the San Francisco 49ers, Kansas City Chiefs futures bet to make the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be real confident about it. And although my confidence is shaken a little bit, what I saw yesterday was a 49ers team, a 49ers DNA, a 49ers blueprint that can win football games regardless of quarterback. Brock Purdy, if you haven't heard of him, he was a 5-year starter at the University of Iowa State. He was affectionately nicknamed Brocktober because for 1 month out of the 4-month college football season, he would go on a Heisman tear. He would throw in 5 Octobers playing college football, he's thrown for over 5,300 passing yards and 49 touchdowns. He loves October. Now, he went to Iowa State 5 years, had a decent little college career playing in the Big 12. Nothing really happened, beat Iowa once. But he was selected in the 2022 NFL Draft. And he was selected the last pick in said draft. Which, if you're not used to this term, if you're not familiar with the term, if you were the last pick in any draft, you are known forever as Mr. Irrelevant. You are the guy that was picked last. You were picked last for dodgeball. Nobody wanted you, so you're just the last pick that somebody had to take. That's what the 49ers had, the last pick. They saw a quarterback on the board. Brock Purdy was their pick. Well, Brock Purdy, a 7th-round pick, Mr. Irrelevant, comes in the game yesterday and wins the football game for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, did Brock Purdy win in that game? You could say no. Wins are not a quarterback stat, but he did eventually get credit with the victory, his first of his young NFL career. And you watch the way the San Francisco 49ers play. It's not a deep passing game. You got tons of skill position players, CMC, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Elijah Mitchell when healthy. They have talent all over the field. And normally a quarterback just has to do the job. Hit a guy in stride, pick up a key third down, and the defense on the other side, led by D'Amico Ryans, will get the job done. Nick Bosa, whose game yesterday resembled a Defensive Player of the Year, which I think he's in the lead in that category right now, passing Micah Parsons. Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Fred Warner, the best middle linebacker in football. Owocho, the safety. This 49ers defense is as legit as it gets. So, is Mr. Irrelevant now relevant? Well, ladies and gents, that's what I don't know. That's what I don't know yet because, see, today there was news. This morning, Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network reported that the Carolina Panthers were cutting Baker Mayfield Jr. III. Baker Mayfield, the former first overall pick in the draft, and the guy who was traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Carolina Panthers last April 2022. Did not last a calendar year in Carolina and only made 7 appearances with the team. Now what happens? Baker Mayfield has to clear through waivers. All other 31 teams will have a chance to claim him. If Baker Mayfield is claimed, they will owe him $1.3 million. San Francisco is the 25th team on the waiver wire. That's based on your standings and where you sit in the league. So that means 24 teams have the option to claim Baker Mayfield before San Francisco can even ponder the thought. If I'm a San Francisco 49er, if I'm John Lynch, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, this is a no-brainer. If Baker Mayfield is available, I acquire him. I claim him, and I bring him in. Baker Mayfield does not look confident. Didn't look good in Carolina the entire time. Did not look good the entire last season in Cleveland, quite frankly. But I come back to, he was the number 1 overall pick in the draft. I saw this guy make it to a Pro Bowl. I saw Baker Mayfield beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh in a playoff game. Not easy to win at Heinz Field or whatever they call it now. Changing the name for sponsors every other year to make a little extra buck. Thanks, Rooney's. I know what he can do. I see him at his best. I see him at his worst. But I know that Baker Mayfield gives me a better chance to win than Mr. Irrelevant. Brock Purdy might be a fine guy. He knows the playbook. They like him, yada, yada, yada. The 49ers have one goal, and that is to win a Super Bowl. Trey Lance went down. They had Jimmy G. Jimmy G goes down. Trade deadline is passed. You can't make a trade. You can't do anything. They have something that could fall into their lap with Baker Mayfield. If he's available, you claim him. He becomes your starting quarterback for the rest of the season. And you have Brock Purdy there to shoulder the load if he needs to play. It's the only option I see. Phillip Rivers is not coming out of retirement. Tony Romo is not coming out of the booth. All of these different thoughts when you see they have no quarterbacks available, you think a veteran could step in. Tony Romo is not leaving $17.5 million at CBS to go be the 49ers starting quarterback. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan know what's in front of them. They know they got Debo locked up long-term. They know they got Trent Williams. He's got a few years left, maybe. They got Fred Warner at his absolute peak. They got DeMeco Ryans for now because he will be a head coach in the NFL next season. So help me God. They have Nick Bosa healthy. Claim Baker Mayfield if you can. If another team claims him, there's nothing you can do about that. I heard somebody suggest today on Twitter that the Los Angeles Rams could claim him just to spite the 49ers. I don't see the play there. They have no money. Matthew Stafford's on injured reserve till week 17. Why bring in another quarterback? So that he can play over John Wolford? Is Baker Mayfield going to be a quarterback for the Rams next year? I just don't see that as a smart option. Does Houston make that move? I don't think so. Houston wants to lose every game down the stretch. Houston wants the number one overall pick in the draft so that they can take Bryce Young or another quarterback they deem fit at that first pick. The 49ers, I still believe, can win a Super Bowl, and I think they can win a Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield. He's played awful in Carolina. This offense is so simplistic. It gets back to his Cleveland roots, except he's got better skill position players in San Francisco. He played with McCaffrey in Carolina. Sure didn't have all kinds of success, but he was injured in the second game of the season. Debo. In the slot, you got Kittle that you can throw the ball to. It would be another fresh start and an opportunity for him to show that he can play in this league. San Francisco. Do what you think is right. I think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are two of the smartest people in the NFL business. And they know their cap situation, and they know where they stand as an organization. Let's just be honest here. You have a better solution potentially available if teams don't claim him. Be smart, do the prudent thing, and take what's there. When you're out walking, say you're out walking down the road and you see a $100 bill on the ground, do you look at it and say, okay, who do you think that was? That's not how I live. Could be the wrong way to live, could be the wrong perception. I see a $100 bill on the ground. I see that as an opportunity for myself. Selfish. It's probably not the right way to do, probably not the way my mother would handle that situation. She'd look for the person to get the $100 bill. If I see a $100 bill roll into my foot, that's mine. That's my property. Unless somebody comes up and clobbers me, if I see a $20 bill with lipstick on it, because I was watching a Seinfeld episode recently, and that's what comes to mind, that's Baker Mayfield. He's a $20 bill that's a little mangled, that hasn't exactly been polished. He's been in the drawer for a while. He's beaten up. He's had underwear on top of him. He's had batteries in that drawer. All kinds of shit have been thrown at Baker Mayfield. He's not pretty. But all around him, all around that $20 bill, there are crisp hundreds. Fresh from the bank. They just made all these new hundreds. And you got to make that $20 bill look presentable. Surround it with beauty. Speaking as a guy that has some good-looking friends, hang around a bunch of guys that are better looking than you. Some people make that argument that it's not a good strategy. Well, if they're all gone, they got to pick somebody, right? If you don't want to break 100, you got to use the 20. That's my analogy today. Money when it comes to Baker Mayfield and the San Francisco 49ers. Take that old $20 bill, get some hundreds around it, boost that confidence of that 20. He feels like he's a $100 bill, yet he's only worth $20. San Francisco does not need Joe Montana. They don't need Joe Namath. They need a quarterback that can just simply do the job. Because we've seen time and time again, this defense can win you, can get you to the promised land. And quite frankly, at his best, Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo when he's playing his best football. I think Baker Mayfield's sitting at home right now, waiting till noon tomorrow to hear from his agent that he was claimed by the 49ers. I don't think he wants to hear that he's claimed by the Rams, that he's claimed by Houston, that another team put him in. I think he wants to go to San Francisco. If he has any kind of brain left in that little pea-sized head of his, that's where he'll want to go. Because it's the place where he will have the best opportunity to succeed. Also in that game, the Miami Dolphins had a real opportunity yesterday, and quite frankly, they blew it. The Miami Dolphins, who are in the heat of a playoff race, are in the midst of a 3-game road trip through Santa Clara, San Francisco, into SoFi next Sunday Night Football, where they play Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. And then a week from Saturday, that's right, 3 Saturday games a week from Saturday, if you didn't know, just announced today. Love that. Against the Buffalo Bills and freezing-ass cold Buffalo. So, Jimmy G goes down. You already have a 7-0 lead at this point. First play of the game, Tua Tagovailoa hits Trent Sherfield for a 75-yard touchdown. And from there, the offense sputters. Run game is non-existent, which has worried me all year. And Tua had his worst game of the season. No doubt about it. He was inaccurate. He just wasn't all there for me. Only completed 50% of his passes. He was missing wide open throws. A couple jump out to me. He had a wheel route to Jeff Wilson that would have been at least a 30-yard pickup. Missed it by a foot. Had Jalen Waddle way open up the middle of the field. Overthrow by 2 yards. He got a bad break late in the game where Mike Gesicki dropped a 4th down conversion. And ultimately, San Francisco forced a turnover late after having a 10-point lead, and San Francisco wins 33-17. They sacked Tua 4 times. He was hit 9. But I still look at that game, and if you were in the hunt for a division title, at this point, you still have the potential to have the first-round bye, and you lose a game to Mr. Irrelevant, quite frankly, that can't happen. A number 5 overall pick in the draft with one of the best offenses in the league cannot lose a game to Mr. Irrelevant. And I'm sure Dolphins fans are sitting there looking at this saying, it's the same old Dolphins. We play a team we should beat and we lose. Our quarterback lets us down, and now we're 8-4. Now we're 8-4, and guess what? We got the Chargers and we got the Bills. You win the game yesterday, Dolphins. You are first in the AFC, and you'd have a bye if the season had ended today. You lose, and you have the 6th seed. The 6th seed. And you play Baltimore in the first round of the playoffs, which you might take right now, seeing as you did beat Baltimore earlier in the season in Maryland. But again, why play an extra game if you don't have to? Bills took care of business on Thursday night. They beat the New England Patriots. Do they lose a game down? Did they lose another game? I'm not so sure. They're playing good. For the Dolphins, their defense played fairly well yesterday. Tua had a couple interceptions. He fumbled. They kept Brock Purdy to field goals. You can win doing that. We'll talk about the Vikings here in a little bit. That's what won them their game yesterday. The offense let the Miami defense down. I look at this game and I look at the fish and I think, you're in good weather. You got nothing wrong. And he missed open throws. Yes, it's an open air stadium, but it's in San Francisco. It's by the bay. It's not crappy weather. It's not raining. It's nothing. It's a perfect day in San Francisco. Go to SoFi. You'll be in a dome. Yes, Tyreek Hill almost had 150 yards receiving, but it doesn't matter when you lose. Jalen Waddle was banged up in the game, and I guess after the game they said Tua hurt his finger. Okay. I find that convenient that you play your worst game of the season and now you have an injury. I don't see a moral victory here. I'm not a moral victory person. I think you've known that if you listen to me long enough. How often in life do you give yourself a moral victory? How often in life do you just look at this and say, well, I did okay. Right? If you're in business and you buy something and it doesn't sell, you just go, well, they'll take a mulligan. If you don't have a whole lot of product, maybe you can live with that solution. But normally, I don't think that's the way people approach it. It's a little more tricky, a little more interesting than just, I'll take a mulligan on that. It's an interesting concept. The thought of taking a mulligan, or we'll get it next time. When you play 82 games in the NBA or the NHL, okay, we'll get them next time. When you lose to Tampa Bay for the Maple Leafs Saturday night, you got a point. You'll take that's a win. It's a loss, but it's a win because guess what? You'll take it. Play really good hockey as of late. Can't win them all, right? You play 17 games in the NFL. And yeah, they might still make the playoffs. They beat the Chargers, which they should be able to. Lose to the Bills. You finish with the 5th or 6th seed, and you see what happens. But what if you lose a couple of these games, you end up the 7th seed? And I'm sure that the story, it'll be twisted into something positive, like, well, we made the playoffs because fan bases like the Dolphins have had no history of being relevant or being any good. So you take the 7th seed, you cherish 7th seed, then you play the Kansas City Chiefs and get your fucking head blown in. Then the season doesn't seem so positive. Good teams take advantage of opportunities. The Miami Dolphins didn't yesterday. I think that tells us they're not that good of a team. They might be who we thought they were. Tua has been really good this season. And if I'm a Dolphins fan, the best thing I can say to all of you, he played really bad and he hasn't played a really bad game all year. He's been really consistent. And there will be no matchup in Week 14 more hyped than Chargers-Dolphins on Sunday Night Football. Why? Tua went 5th. Herbert went 6th. Most people think Herbert's better than Tua. That angers people in Miami to no end. The 2-9 crowd love themselves some Tua Tagovailoa. They love defending their guy. Well, you get to play the guy that they think is better than your guy. Oh, what a spicy thing you hear this week that both quarterbacks don't care about the matchup. It's not really a big deal. Well, it's not about us. Oh, it's about you. It's about you. And it's about finding a way to win that game. The 6-6 Chargers. Yikes. 0-2 against the Raiders this season. Before we move on to Kansas City, Cincinnati, I want to tell you guys what happened this weekend for gambling for yours truly. I hit one of the most degenerate, just greedy, just grimy parlays in my gambling history. And I truly mean that. I've gambled on some pretty degenerate type stuff. I'll bet on college basketball on a Thursday night because why not? Give me Duke +4 on the road. I'll take the Blue Devils. Sunday afternoon, NFL. I'm looking at the board, and as you know, I only bet underdogs. So I take a look. Steelers are an underdog against the Falcons. I knew that was a win from the beginning. Steelers are a better team. Falcons are reeling. Mike Tomlin's got the team playing pretty well. Steelers +1. Steelers outright win the game. Check. But betting on a team that was 4-7 tells you where you are in life. Leg number 1. Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars. I love myself some Detroit. I got them over 5.5 wins. They're a home dog to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Are you kidding me? How dare you not put Jared Goff as a home favorite? So because of that, I have to punish Vegas. Detroit goes in there and just beats the hell out of the Jags. Get their 5th win. 5-7. Back in the playoff mix, Detroit. Leg number 2. Check. How about the Raiders? The Raiders playing the Chargers in Los Angeles. Of course the Chargers are a favorite. Brandon Staley just wants to be fired so bad. I told Matt Wright 2 weeks ago the Raiders are coming. He loved the team at the beginning, then he gave up on them. I love Ryder. I'll tell him this to his face on Thursday. Gave up on his team. I don't give up on people, especially underdogs. Raiders beat the Chargers, the 3rd leg of a 4-leg parlay. And we got one more to really dive into. One more parlay to win this bet. What could it be? Oh, yeah. I took the Denver Broncos +8.5 against the Baltimore Ravens. And the Ravens only won by 1 point. No, I did not predict Lamar would get injured. They would have covered even if Lamar stayed in the game. Ravens win. Broncos cover easily. Tyler Huntley, great. You got a last-second touchdown. I don't care. I covered the number. 4-leg parlay was the play yesterday. You might say that was lucky. Okay. Sure. So is every bet, I would argue. But a 4-way doggy parlay featuring those 4 teams. All I got to say is to Vegas is thank you. Thank you for your arrogance and putting these teams as underdogs. Steelers on the road, Raiders on the road, Broncos on the road. Woohoo! Good week. Good week, folks. Let's just say I got next weekend's gambling already set up. UFC 282. Got cash for you. Just waiting to spend it. Oh, that's fun. That's fun. Enough about me. Enough about me and my brilliance. Kansas City, Cincinnati Bengals. In 2022, Joe Burrow is 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is 10-2 against the rest of the league. Joe Burrow has never lost to Patrick Mahomes head-to-head. I watched that game yesterday, and boy, was it ever great. Just a phenomenal game. The two best quarterbacks, I'll repeat that, the two best quarterbacks in the NFL going head-to-head. You got Patrick Mahomes and Joey B. And you saw great things from both guys. Mahomes diving for that touchdown. Burrow scrambling, going on long drives, hitting clutch throws like the one he hit to T. Higgins to close out the game. I would say Mahomes is the most interesting and the most chaotically beautiful quarterback to ever play the position. And certainly the most chaotically beautiful quarterback in the game right now. Joe Burrow has the ability to make throws that no other quarterback can make. He finds these windows that seem so tiny and he fits it in. He has a knack for hitting these small windows, and he throws on the sideline to Jamar Chase, to T. Higgins. And I'll tell you this. I told you guys a few weeks ago that I just had this feeling that the Cincinnati Bengals were coming. They were the true threat. They got to the Super Bowl last year, and they were starting to come alive. Cincinnati beat the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday without Joe Mixon. He did not play. Samaje Perine was the starting running back. Had a good game. Another good game. Joe Burrow also used his legs. They just played smart football. Key plays. Pratt forces a fumble on Travis Kelce in the fourth quarter. Leads to a touchdown. Stop Kansas City late in the fourth quarter. They have to settle for a 53-yard field goal that Harrison Butker missed. He's no longer a clutch kicker. He's losing that gene. Evan McPherson makes these big kicks. So I look at this. Mahomes didn't play awesome. I thought he played good. Good enough to win, certainly, because in that fourth quarter, it looked like Kansas City was going to win the game. To me, Kansas City is still the best team in the AFC. And yes, that goes against some of my thinking that, you're not the best until you beat the best, and Patrick Mahomes has never beaten Joe Burrow. But I just look at Kansas City and the respect I have for that team, and I can't pick against them. Their defense played pretty solid yesterday. It was not their weakness. The Kelce fumble, that can't happen. A better defensive play by Cincinnati won them that game. I still have Kansas City won because of Mahomes, because of Juju Smith-Schuster, because of Kelce. They take this on the chin, and they battle back. They lost the Bills last year in the regular season. They won the next meeting in the postseason. He's never beaten Joe Burrow, but I think he will this year because I think these two teams will meet in the AFC Championship game. Kansas City is a game against Seattle down the stretch. They got to play the Broncos twice. There's 2 wins. They got the Raiders again to close out their season. The Bills got the Jets. They got the Dolphins. They got the Bengals later in the season. Kansas City may still squeak out with the number 1 seed in the AFC. We still got a long way to go here. 5 games left. My hierarchy in the AFC remains Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo. These two teams are all really good. Don't get me wrong. Buffalo is a very good football team. But I trust the 2 quarterbacks that are 1-2 in my hierarchy more than I trust Josh Allen. I think they're both better than Josh Allen. And you can make an argument, ball in his hands with 30 seconds left, there's nobody I'd want more than Joe Burrow. He just seems to always make the right play. And what I love about Burrow and what I love about Patrick Mahomes is they're both guys that just don't worry about their ego. It's about the team. It's about winning. Mahomes ran the ball on a 3rd and 5 down at the 7-yard line. A draw play to Jerick McKinnon. He got into the end zone. It doesn't matter to Isaiah Pacheco, sorry. It doesn't matter to him. He just wants to find a way to win the game. Cincinnati has that pedigree. They got to a Super Bowl. Mahomes has been to 2. Josh Allen and the Bills have been to none. They haven't been to an AFC championship game. They haven't been through this grind. For Buffalo, getting home field position is paramount. When the Indianapolis Colts, who constantly got close but never won, when Peyton Manning was there, they played in the Dome, and they needed help. They were the number 3 seed, but New England was 4th. The number 1 and number 2 were bounced. The Chargers were beaten, and New England had to come to Indy. Peyton Manning got to play in the Dome. Tom Brady's used to playing outside. That's the one season where Manning beat Brady in the key AFC championship game. Buffalo's used to those elements. It's different playing in Buffalo in January than it is playing in Kansas City. I'm not saying it's not cold in Kansas City, but it's just different and you have that home field advantage. These 3 teams could all get home field because Cincinnati plays Buffalo. You could win that head-to-head matchup. Cincinnati currently is behind Baltimore in the divisional lead because Baltimore has beaten Cincinnati head-to-head. Credit to Cincinnati for beating Kansas City again in a really entertaining game. Really entertaining. It's awesome to see the 2 best in the sport duke it out like that. It's always entertaining. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, don't let us down again. Speaking of Baltimore, I mentioned they beat the Denver Broncos yesterday, 10-9. But in the first quarter, Lamar Jackson went down with a knee injury and did not return. Tyler Huntley came in, and the Baltimore Ravens ran one of the craziest offenses I've seen. They threw 2 interceptions in the third and fourth quarter. One from Tyler Huntley that was just completely obscene. One on a trick play that was going nowhere. And yet, Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos are so pathetic on offense, they couldn't even win that. They forced 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions from Justin Simmons, and they still lost the football game. Denver has the now 2nd-ranked defense in the NFL, and they are 3-9. 3-9. Tyler Huntley got the ball back with a little over 2 minutes left, and he drove a touchdown-winning drive down the field. Good for Tyler Huntley, backup quarterback coming in. You need that, but again, you got 10 points. This was not something to brag about. But there is news on the Lamar Jackson front just coming in. So, Lamar Jackson is week to week with knee injury. Now, week to week can mean a lot of different things. You really don't know, what week to week it could be next 2-3 weeks. That's very vague from John Harbaugh. I'm guessing they got the Steelers this week. He will not be playing in that game. I would expect Tyler Huntley to be the starting quarterback against the Steelers, which all of a sudden is not so much of a gimme game anymore. Steelers are 5-7. They've won 3 in a row. George Pickens is losing it on the sideline with Kenny Pickett because he had 1 catch for 2 yards yesterday, but the Steelers keep winning. They went to Atlanta and got that win. For Lamar, you have a knee injury, and you're in a contract season. The problem, I would say, if I was his agent, but he doesn't have an agent. His agent is himself or his mother. Well, if I'm Lamar's mother, I'm not coming back unless I have a contract. You have to think about yourself. You have to think about your future. Is Baltimore going to pay you if you come back and get hurt in the playoffs? Is Baltimore going to come back if you gut it out and you win a division title and you bounce out early and everybody will say, well, Lamar's not a playoff quarterback? You have to think about these questions because they're going to come up. I'm not sure. I wouldn't come back because I need to know that my money's going to be there. What if that was an ACL injury and he was done for the season? That could completely change his career trajectory and where it's going and where he plays next year. You need security, and he has none of it right now. If they want you back enough, they'll make you an offer that you can't refuse. Russell Wilson got a deal. Deshaun Watson got a deal. Josh Allen's gotten a deal. These guys have gotten contracts to get some security long term. You've won an MVP. You've got this team to the playoffs. You've won division titles. You're in the hunt to win another division title this year. Show me the money. I don't think that'll be approached by Lamar because I just think he's such a competitor. He wants to win with the Baltimore Ravens. He thinks they can win a Super Bowl this year. I understand that. He jumped in for Joe Flacco, who went into a contract year, won a Super Bowl, and then got a long-term extension by the Ravens. Lamar might see that as the same opportunity for him to validate his future earnings. I think he already has, but I just buyer beware. I'm not coming back earlier than I have to. Because that money's not just going to pop out to you. You got a knee injury, make sure that knee injury is 110%. But as I said, it's a week-to-week thing. I expect Tyler Huntley to be under center this coming Sunday for the Ravens. Again, he survives the injury. He's not done for the year. Jimmy Garoppolo is done for the season. A couple more football stories I do want to get to. I want to get to Jalen Hurts in a second, but we'll talk about the NFC East here in a second. But some baseball news today and over the weekend and some breaking news, so I want to get to it. Brian Cashman, the longtime general manager of the New York Yankees, has just been re-signed by the club to a 4-year extension through the 2026 season. This is a big extension because Cashman had no contract. He's been there for over a decade. They love him in New York. And he's done a lot of good things. He's won multiple division titles. He's traded from Giancarlo Stanton. He signed Garrett Cole. Aaron Judge at 62 home runs under his tenure. He's gotten to multiple American League Championship Series. But Cashman, since 2009, has not gotten the New York Yankees to a World Series. And it's been talked about by many baseball analysts, experts, that if George Steinbrenner was the owner of this team, Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone would not be employed. Which, if you see the history of what they did there in New York, they wouldn't be. Brian Cashman, like I said, I think he's a good executive. I don't think he overspends. I don't think the Giancarlo Stanton trade was smart. But he did not give up a whole lot in that deal that would make you question it. You got to look at it and think, well, you got Stanton under contract. You can't trade him because he's got a full no move. That's a problem. But Garrett Cole's been an ace since coming in. That was a good signing. Nestor Cortez has been a really good find. Getting Josh Donaldson brought in. Anthony Rizzo has been a good bat for the New York Yankees. So I think Cashman is a good executive. But he's been there over a decade, and he's never brought that kind of success. And another 4 seasons, I think that what it tells me is that this Yankee ownership, Hal Steinbrenner and co., believe that Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman are the guys to lead the Yankees to another pennant. They believe that they can guide this team to success. I'm not necessarily buying it. I look at what, Aaron Judge has not been signed yet. We're seeing guys come off the board in Major League Baseball. It's earlier than I'm used to seeing signings happen. But I don't. Are they going to overpay Aaron Judge and regret it? I could easily see that happen because I think any deal over 4 years with Aaron Judge is a bad contract, quite frankly. What are they going to do to replace third base and Josh Donaldson? What kind of pitching can they add to this team to remain competitive with the Blue Jays and with the Tampa Bay Rays in the American League East? It's an interesting development. I thought he'd get a contract. I thought it might just be a 1 or 2 year deal, but he gets 4 years to remain in New York. And when you think of baseball, you think of the Yankees and you think of the Dodgers because they spend the most money. But so far in free agency, the Yankees have been really, really quiet. Because over the weekend and today, we've seen multiple big names come off the Major League Baseball free agent board. It started Friday night when the Texas Rangers signed Jacob deGrom. The multiple-time Cy Young winner is now a Texas Ranger. I have to get these notes out because I was watching games Friday night. So they signed Jacob deGrom to a 5-year, $185 million deal, full no trade, and a 6-year option for the 34-year-old pitcher. 5 years, $185 million. A guy who's not made 30 starts in 5 years. A guy who hasn't made 20 starts in 3 years. And a 34-year-old pitcher. Okay. The Texas Rangers have seemingly wanted to join the Dodgers and the Yankees, Mets when it comes to spending. They signed Corey Seager for $30 million a year last offseason. And they signed Marcus Semien alongside him for nearly $30 million a year as well. They won 75 games. So they won 69 games and missed the playoffs. Marcus Semien did not hit a home run in his first 2 months. And you got John Gray. You got Martin Perez, who's just coming off a contract season. Do you think that's going to happen again? I doubt it. Just a bunch of guys in Texas, really bad pitching, no bullpen depth, and a team full with a couple big budget players, and that's about it. The Texas Rangers made a massive mistake here, and the New York Mets fans, I'm not so sure you should be happy. That was going to be my argument today, but then I saw what they did this afternoon. Jacob deGrom somehow never pitches, is constantly injured, but could opt out of a $30 million a year option and make more money. And make more damn money. Get 5 years to go to Texas. This deal runs until he's 39 years old. He is not a reliable guy to be in the lineup. And Texas is just a team that's so desperate to be relevant. They want to be seen as somebody that's valued, and they are so jealous that the Houston Astros have been winning World Series, have been winning the American League West year after year after year, and they have nothing to show for it. Since Adrian Beltre and Rougned Odor punched Jose Bautista in 2016, the Texas Rangers have not made the playoffs. They have been a nothing franchise. They've been a team that has had no stars and really it's just been under the radar. But then seemingly out of nowhere, they change up personnel. They change up their president. Chris Young is the new president of baseball operations, former player in Major League Baseball. And now they want to seem relevant. They don't want to be Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. They want to start swinging, start showing the money. This is a stupid signing. Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in baseball when healthy, but when is the operative word there? When is the operative word? I'll start up by making just a couple bets, and I'll come back to these because When I say stuff, I come back to it. Jacob deGrom does not make 25 starts next season for the Texas Rangers. And I'll even say this. During the course of Jacob deGrom's stint in Texas, they do not get to an American League Championship Series. They do not even get to an American League Championship Series with Seager, with deGrom, with Simeon, whoever else they might add. They're not going to be able to spend that much more money because they're blowing all their money on 3 players. This team's depth is still going to stink. They used to have Elvis Andrus. They used to have Adrian Beltre, Shin-Soo Choo, Nomar in left field. They don't anymore. This team is still middling. They're still a team that's devoid of talent. The Astros are still better. Stupid baseball by the Texas Rangers. I love Jacob deGrom. One of the best pitchers in baseball. If you could have him on the mound for a must-win wildcard game, I would take him in a second. But I don't trust a guy that's untrustworthy. Pretty simple in life. Then we get to this morning. The New York Mets. Well, they lose Jacob deGrom. And I'm sure some Mets fans were crying because Jacob deGrom's out of New York. We're done for. Well, the Mets had to act. Steve Cohen hates to see a player leave because he's got all that money. Jacob deGrom walks out the door. So he goes out and he signs Justin Verlander to a 2-year, $86 million deal. $43 million a season. Now, Verlander's coming off a World Series win, his second of his career, coming off an American League Cy Young at the age of 39. And that pairs Justin Verlander, 39, with Max Scherzer, 38 years old, as their 1-2 punch in the New York Mets rotation. Oh, this is fun. So deGrom's out. Chris Bassett's a free agent. Likely won't be back in New York. I love Justin Verlander. I do. But, seeing a 39 and a 38-year-old as your 1-2 punch in a rotation, that's a tough sight to see. Because, 30... What have we seen from Scherzer the last couple of years? Always getting dead arm when it comes to the postseason. Can't pitch. He's got all kinds of problems. How would he pitch? He pitched game 1 of the wild card game. You remember that? Oh, yeah, he gave up 5 earned runs. He didn't even go 4 innings. That was a good start. Max Scherzer until the World Series. Game 1 against the Seattle Mariners. Do you remember that start? He gave up 6 earned runs. Didn't go 5. Didn't go 5 his next start either. Finally, he got a World Series win in Game 5. 3 of his 4 starts were piss poor in the postseason. Something you got to remember, folks, is this isn't about the regular season for the Mets, for the Rangers, for these teams. The regular season is irrelevant. Making the playoffs in baseball is so easy. It's so easy. They're expanding the playoffs. You're in a division where teams aren't spending any kind of money, and you just make it. But you're telling me Verlander and Scherzer is better than Fried in Atlanta? Better than their rotation? Brandon Nemo's leaving New York. Who's going to replace him? I don't know. Do we know yet who's going to replace him? Austin Riley still playing third base for the Braves? Yeah, still pretty good, I think. Yeah. Ronald Acuna broke his hand, bad luck, got an injury. Ronald Acuna still there. Dansby Swanson, free agent. I'd like to see him come back. $39 and 38-year-old starting pitchers. Justin Verlander's a stud, don't get me wrong. Framber Valdez and Christian Javier saved his bacon. Go look at the postseason stats. Go look at them. They were the better players. They were the better pitchers than Justin Verlander. Lance McCullers had a great start, sucked in the World Series Game 3, was fantastic prior to that. You can have an old man that doesn't pitch well in the postseason, then comes up big in one big moment, pitch 5 and a third, if you call that a big moment. But if you don't have depth behind him, if you don't have somebody that can save his ass, that can pitch their way out of it, you're probably not going to win the World Series. That's just a guess. But I think I'm right about that. Justin Verlander takes the money. I don't blame him. It's a lot of money. I don't blame him at all. But to look at that situation and just accept it. If I'm the Mets, I like the signing better than I like the DeGrom signing. So I give them that much credit for not making a colossal mistake that could have ruined their franchise for years and years to come. But having two old-ass men on the mound is not the answer either. This isn't about ageism. This isn't about I hate old players. That's not true at all. I want to win. That's what I want to do. And I think the Mets and the Rangers, we'll see what the Yankees do. These teams are it's scripted as they're so desperate to win. And that's what these signings don't tell me. They're so desperate to be in the game. They're so desperate to have a signing that signals that they're going to win. It signals that, okay, yeah, we're going to win the World Series this year. Okay. Are you? Are you really? Who did Houston sign last offseason for a big ticket? Who was their big addition that was so groundbreaking? Actually, they let Carlos Correa walk. They let him go to Minnesota and just swell it up there and play like shit all season long. They didn't make a move. They let a cancer walk, and they brought in a rookie for $700,000. What a move that was. There's teams that play chess, and there's teams that play checkers. I've heard forever, wish there's no salary cap. We could just buy a championship. Hear that from a lot of Rangers fans, Leaf fans, and people that complain because their teams that they root for can't win because their general managers and the people that run their business aren't good enough at it. How about you find smarter people? How about you have better scouts? Don't just get in the game to say you're in the game. How about you go play the game and hoping to win? Making a signing as a big splash to make Tom, Dick, and Harry happy? Who cares about Tom, Dick, and Harry? It's the people in these positions of power. It could be Elon Musk with Twitter. He's clamoring to all the Fox News people to get them on his side. They're so happy he's in charge. He's hosting a Twitter space over the weekend where they're in there listening to him, Clay Travis, Will Kane, all these guys that love to kiss ass and love ending the woke world or whatever they deem fit nowadays. They love that. It doesn't matter. It's people with power. It's people that have any kind of responsibility, like the positive reaction from the public. In my opinion, the best people in business, the smartest people I've come across in life, make a decision not based on what the people think, but they make a decision on what they think is right and what they think will give them the most success. Who fucking cares what your neighbor thinks? Who fucking cares what your best friend thinks sometimes? You make a decision that's best for you. That's best for your business. That's best for your personal life. That is the way I see life. That's the way the best people in sports succeed. Way to go, Rangers, Mets fans. I'm sure you're happy today. And that sounds like a euphemism, saying the Rangers and Mets. I'm not talking about the New York Rangers. They got nothing to be excited about right now. They're playing pathetic. Way to go. There's another big signing. Shortstop Trey Turner, former World Series champion with the Washington Nationals in 2019, and then Los Angeles Dodger, they traded for and then won nothing with him, has signed a 11-year, $300 million deal with the Philadelphia Phillies, according to ESPN's Jeff Passan. Wow. Okay. So widely considered as the top free agent available this winter after Aaron Judge, Turner slots .298 in 160 games last season for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He also stole 27 bases, hit 21 home runs, and drove in a career-high 100 runs while making the National League All-Star team for the second time in his career. So, wow. This pairs Trey Turner back with Bryce Harper. Oddly enough, they did not win the World Series together in Washington because Bryce Harper was hasta luego by then, going to Philadelphia, signing a 13-year deal. So now Trey Turner follows his old buddy to Philadelphia, signs for $27 million a season. 11 years is a long, long time. But Trey Turner is a better player and a more reliable player than Justin Verlander or Jacob deGrom, period. He plays every day. He bats .300. He drives in runs. He can steal bases. He's a perfect leadoff hitter. I love everything about Trey Turner. I think Trey Turner's a stud. This helps the Philadelphia Phillies. They had Kyle Schwarber batting leadoff. That's not where you want him. Trey Turner gives him a lot of flexibility. In today's baseball game, $300 million is not that crazy. 11 years brings that number down for the team. So they take those couple extra years. If you have a couple years left on that deal, maybe you can trade it. I'm not giving this a 10 out of 10 because I think 11 years is crazy. But it gives you more flexibility down the line and, just in the future when it comes to what you want to do business-wise. So this isn't a home run. I'm not, to use a baseball euphemism, sorry. But I think it's better than deGrom. I think it's better than Scherzer. That's my baseline today. Was it better than those deals? Yes, to me it was. So I give them that much credit. Like I said, you get a leadoff hitter. Bryce knows him very well. They're friends. You still have Castellanos. Your pitching is still, pretty solid. You're fresh off getting to a World Series. Now, do I think they get back to the World Series because they added Trey Turner? I don't. But he is a good player, and you're trying to win. So I have to give team credit trying to win, and I think this is a much, you're talking about short-term deal for Justin Verlander, but God damn it, $43 million a season? My God. Burning a hole through that paycheck because you know damn well it's probably not going to work out that well for you. But the baseball moves are so you have Trey Turner, Verlander, and deGrom off the board. What this is interesting to me is what this means for Aaron Judge. Trey Turner just signed 11 years, $300. Aaron Judge is not going to take 8 years, $300 million from the Yankees. He just isn't. I wouldn't offer him 8 years anything. I don't care if it was 8 years, $8. I'm not offering him that deal. Because I'm not taking a 31-year-old player for 8 years. His body type, the way I'm not taking, he's got an injury history. The Yankees will do it. Because like I said, they got to get in the game. They got to be with the Mets. They got to be with the Rangers. They got to try to get in the game of being the most popular, getting the pick that you like more. That game, not the winning game. But if he gets 11, let's do the math here quickly, folks. 300 divided by 8 is $37.5 million a year. Verlander makes 43. Max Scherzer makes around there. I think Aaron Judge is going to want their salary. I think you want about. I think Aaron Judge wants 400 million 8 years. That's $50 million a year. I think he wants to set the new mark in baseball. He just hit 62 home runs. Scott Boras is his agent, so Scott Boras is a guy that's just all about the money. He's an agent, so you can't really blame him for that. But I can't see San Francisco offering him that deal. I think the Yankees will because, like I said, Cashman's re-signed. They're so desperate to be somewhat relevant right now with every team making a move other than them. Who knows? Who knows? Fun times here in baseball. Lots happening on a Monday in early December. Like I said, these deals get done normally later. I'm not used to seeing these guys come off the board. We'll keep you updated by the day as things happen. Other news, just quickly here. Nathan Rourke, who played in the CFL this season for the BC Lions. He from the Toronto area, Canadian quarterback. He is working out for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Denver Broncos, and Las Vegas Raiders today of the National Football League. So he's getting some workouts in. He's working out for teams. He said the option to go back to the CFL is on the table, but he does have workouts. Things seem to be going well for Nathan Rourke. Played in the playoffs for the BC Lions. It's good to see a Canadian quarterback succeed and to have some NFL teams look into him. So that's a good sign for Canada and just the CIS program as a whole. But good news for Nathan Rourke on that front. We have a new MVP right now in the NFL. And that man's name is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had himself a day yesterday against the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans that I talked about last week have one of the best defenses in the NFL. Tennessee Titans who will beat you to death at the line of scrimmage with guys like Jeffrey Simmons. The Tennessee Titans that are just a tough, physical football team. Jalen Hurts threw 3 touchdowns and ran for another. Had only 9 incompletions and almost threw for 400 yards. He's not just a one-dimensional quarterback that can run the football on option. He can run for $150 a game, but can also throw for 400. And it's few teams that have this. The Philadelphia Eagles have a two-headed monster. As they have Devontae Smith and they got A.J. Brown. And either one of them can cook you. A.J. Brown caught 2 touchdowns yesterday. Devontae Smith caught 1. And it was, you got to cut, one of your worst corners has to go up. Your number 2 corner has to take one of them, and it makes it very difficult for your defense. Because then if you cover both of them, you might have Quez Watkins over the top. Or you might have Miles Sanders on a wheel route. When Dallas Goedert returns later in the season. Jarrett Stoll has fit in well into this offense. There are a lot of weapons for Philadelphia, and their offense is very, very sophisticated. Jalen just looks to get better week after week after week. He was doubted. He was thought, okay, is this guy even a starting quarterback in the NFL? He's answering those questions day by day. To me, following the loss yesterday, Jalen Hurts is the MVP of the league. I just look at his game. He hasn't had a bad game this year. Their one loss, he did not play bad in that game. He didn't turn the ball over. He didn't make that many mistakes. Jalen Hurts just plays clean, crisp football. I like the way he plays. He's a winner. The Eagles have the best record in the NFL for a reason. Best offensive line. Best, I think, tandem receiving core. You could argue the best. Cincinnati's really good too with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. But Philly continues to show people that they're for real. But that NFC East is intriguing because the Dallas Cowboys, to me, in the NFC are the second best team. They continue to show. The poor Indianapolis Colts last night, they made them quit. Beat the hell out of them. Poor Matt Ryan. He needs to go to just a retirement home and give it up. Go coach Boston College. Go be the quarterback's coach at your alma mater because you're done, my friend. Great career. Not going to get to the Hall of Fame, but very good career. It's done. Jeff Saturday experiment is over. He's 1-3. But this team gave in last night. It was close at the end of the third quarter, and the Cowboys end up with 54 points. That defense killed Matt Ryan. They intercepted him 3 times. Dak Prescott only threw it for 170 yards last night. He didn't play well whatsoever. But CeeDee Lamb is only getting better by the week. I think Michael Gallup's getting better. And does OBJ end up in Dallas? Does he end up in New York? And there's reports yesterday that he really wants to end up a New York Giant. Boy, could they use him. But to me, Philly's the best team in the NFC. Dallas is number 2. And then I get to you have the Giants and the Commanders who tied yesterday. 60 minutes and then a 10-minute overtime, you tie the game. Commanders are 7-5-1, and the New York Giants are 7-4-1. Washington heads into their bye week. They are now the 8th seed, with Seattle passing them, winning against the Rams yesterday in dramatic fashion. The Giants have a game this week. Then they got to play the Commanders in Week 15. Commanders coming off their bye on Sunday Night Football. That was flexed into Sunday Night Football earlier today. Really, the Giants deserve to win that game. Daniel Jones played really well. The offense looks smart from Brian Daboll. These two teams are very similar. Heineke and Daniel Jones are similar quarterbacks. The one thing you could say for Washington that makes you a little more confident in them is Terry McLaurin is a number 1 receiver. Terry McLaurin is a difference maker, and he saves Heineke a lot. He's just a guy, he's one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. Washington goes on a bye, then Chase Young returns in Week 15. Payne, Sweat, you got to hope that the Washington defensive line can cause more havoc, create a few turnovers, because that game will be a defining point in this season for both teams. Because you look at it, this week, the New York Giants, I believe they have a tricky game. Try to pull that up for you guys quickly here. But the Giants got a game this week that's another must-win. If they lose this game, if they lose this week, they will be 7-5-1, tied with the Commanders as they play in Week 15. One of them wins, or unless they tie again, one of those two teams wins and gets in pole position to make the playoffs. But you look around the NFL right now, the Steelers are back in the race for a playoff spot. In the AFC North, you have the Steelers 5-7, the Browns 5-7. Deshaun Watson looked real good in his return this weekend. Look good on him, asshole. Get those two guys. You got Steelers, Browns 5-7. Then you have the Ravens and Bengals at 8-4. But you're looking at it, you have the Steelers at 6-6. Sorry, the Patriots at 6-6. Chargers at 6-6. The Jets are 7-4. Or 7-5 now, pardon me. So every team is somewhat still in the mix. The Steelers are still lurking. Colts are done now. But if the Steelers can pull off an upset against the Ravens, Tyler Huntley at quarterback, all of a sudden you're right there. Patriots have a few games that they can win. They got the Cardinals on Monday Night Football this week. Teams are still very much alive in this playoff hunt. NFC as well. Commanders, Seahawks, Giants, Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions have Minnesota and the Jets, their next two games. I believe they can win both games. They're playing really good football right now. Armand St. Brown is stepping up week after week. Jared Goff is making smart decisions with the football, and they are well coached, and they are a physical football team. They should have beat the Vikings in week 2. They threw that game away in the fourth quarter with a 10-point lead. They have an opportunity to rectify that this Sunday. Home to the Vikings, then at the Jets. You find a way to win both those games, you're likely in the postseason. Because the Commanders or the Giants are going to lose when they play each other in week 15, unless they tie again. Which, who knows? It is the NFC East. Crazier things have happened. But I think one of them will find a way to win the next game. Seahawks got to play the 49ers again. Seahawks got to play the Chiefs. They're not winning out the remaining of their schedule. They're going to have a few losses. Detroit Lions have to win their next 2 games, and I think they can. And it's just finding a way to do it. Minnesota, to their credit, are 10-2. They're not a 10-2 team on paper. Every week it's just nip and tuck. I mean, they're playing the Jets this week. And I credit that Minnesota defense that's been terrible all season long. They stepped up and had themselves a game. Mike White and that Jets offense had 5 trips to the red zone yesterday. And on 4 of those 5 trips, they had to settle with a field goal. That is the ball game. The Vikings had 3 trips in the red zone. They scored 3 touchdowns. Simple as that. They had no great plays in the red zone. Mike White, pass rush getting to him. He took a sack a few times, a couple incomplete passes. The run game was going nowhere in the red zone. I thought the Vikings defense, after they played horrible against the Patriots, Mac Jones looked like vintage Tom Brady. They stepped up and won that game yesterday because Kirk Cousins did not play well. He completed 3 of his first 13 throws, threw another interception, and Mike White still did not play great. Mike White had an okay game, but the Jets were still alive in that game. He battled hard. He fought for every yard yesterday, but yet still the Jets lose, and they are 7-5. They currently occupy the final spot, a postseason slot in the AFC. They still got to play the Bills again. They still got to play the Dolphins again. They got to play the Lions. I think they might lose all 3 of those games, quite frankly. I don't think Zach Wilson goes back in quarterback this week. I do think he'll be the quarterback again before the end of the season because you need to make that pivot to show face. If you lose this week to the Bills, you're 7-6. You're likely done. You're not done, but I think you're in tough because there'll be a team that has, to me, the Raiders are the sleeping giant in the AFC to sneak into that playoff spot. They got the Chiefs again, which is tough, but it's the last game of the season. Who knows what the Chiefs are playing for? That might mean nothing to the Chiefs. They got the Patriots. You can win that game. They got the Steelers, winnable football game. They got to play the Broncos. I'm not sure they play the Broncos again. They might not get that lucky to be able to let's ride another time. AFC is interesting. Sometimes it's just about schedule. Jets, tough schedule. Raiders, not so tough. Patriots, couple division games. And the Raiders and Patriots play each other. That very much could determine who gets that final playoff spot in the AFC. So the Raiders, after all that happened, Derek Carr crying, Josh McDaniels nearly fired after week 4 in that press conference, all could be saved with a playoff run this year. Get that 7th seed, potentially play the Chiefs. Who knows? Let's ride. Again, the fact that the Broncos lost yesterday when they had 2 interceptions in the last minute of the third quarter and then another one in the fourth quarter. Their defense gave up 10 points and you lose another game. It's just so shameful. They got Russell Wilson another 6 years. 6 years. This is my point on DeGrom and all these long-term contracts. Boy, they look good at the second you sign them, right? You won the offseason. You won the big signing. Then you see the players step on the field and it looks like they shit their pants. Yikes. Tonight, New Orleans, Tampa. What a fascinating Monday Night Football game that is. It isn't, but Tampa is 5-6. For some reason, they would still scare me in the NFC because it's Tom Brady, I guess. Their play has no reason to scare anybody. But New Orleans, I will say, they win tonight. New Orleans is 5-8. Bucs are 5-7. They would be a game out if New Orleans can find a way to win tonight. Andy Dalton somehow beats Tom Brady tonight, beats the GOAT tonight. Bucs are a 4-point favorite. I can't see the Bucs losing tonight. They're coming off a loss to the sorry Browns with Jacoby Brissett. I kind of forgot about the Browns when I was just going that soliloquy about the Raiders. I think the Browns could be in that same position. They do got to play the Bengals, but they got their number. We'll save that for another day. But the Saints defense isn't what it used to be. That offense, I mean, I love Chris Olave. I thought he'd win NFC Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'm not sure he will because he's not getting the targets and he's got Andy Dalton as his quarterback. The thing about Brady is he's not turning the ball over. He's having a crap season, but he's got 2 interceptions on the season. He's not putting his team in harm's way. Dennis Allen I don't think he's a great head coach whatsoever, but I do think he knows how to coach defense. And he knows how to coach against Tom Brady. X factors tonight for me, I got 2. Demario Davis, middle linebacker for the New Orleans Saints. He's a great football player. He's been around the league for a long time. He always plays great against the Bucs. I think if they win tonight, he'll have 8-9 tackles, and he'll be just a key part of the game. In the middle, blowing people up, just getting in Brady's face. So Demario Davis is number 1. And number 2 is Marshawn Lattimore against Mike Evans. Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans. Remember, Mike Evans was suspended for a game. He was suspended for the Week 3 game after he popped Marshawn Lattimore in the face and Brady got involved. These two don't like each other. It's a personal affair. And I want to see that matchup tonight. Can Lattimore dominate Mike Evans again? Mike Evans got a touchdown in their first meeting only after Lattimore was ejected. They only took advantage when Lattimore was out of the game, and they got that advantage. Head-to-head, Lattimore's gotten the better of Mike Evans in all their meetings practically. I think if Lattimore's really good tonight and there's no Mike Evans, there's not a whole lot of targets for Tom Brady to throw the ball to. Cameron Brate remains out with that neck injury. You still have, obviously, your underneath targets. Scotty Miller, I think, will get a few balls thrown his way tonight. I think the Bucs win, and they likely cover. But New Orleans, if they do win tonight, it'll be because of that defense, and they just come up and play inspired football against a team that I think they're very confident playing against. Today at the World Cup, Brazil, they just won their game against Croatia. They advanced. They will play Croatia in the quarterfinal after they dominated Korea with a 4-1 win. Croatia won this morning against Japan. It went all the way to penalty kicks, which I hate. Just like a shootout, but Croatia moved on. So you have Brazil against Croatia in the quarterfinal. You're going to have England against France, which should be a lot of fun. 2 of the best teams in the tournament. Argentina and the Netherlands is another quarterfinal. And I believe tomorrow's the last day of the knockout round before we get to the actual quarterfinals. So tomorrow's the last day of the knockout round before we advance further at the World Cup. UFC. Quickly, get the UFC here. I wanted to talk about this because I enjoyed it Saturday night. Let's see here. Where are my notes on the UFC? Got to be somewhere. Yes, so UFC Fight Night Orlando was Saturday night. And honestly, Saturday is a bit of a fight afternoon. Tyson Fury fought in boxing. He easily retained his heavyweight title. Hope to see him fight Usyk in 2023. Couple big things for the UFC. To me, the fight that had the most meaning and the most relevance on the card was Sergey Pavlovich, the big Russian heavyweight, fighting Bam Bam Tai Tuivasa. And Pavlovich had beaten Derek Lewis in his last fight, but it was an early stoppage, if you ask me. Tai Tuivasa had beaten Derek Lewis, had beaten a number of great heavyweights, but he was just coming off a loss to Cyril Gane in France in September. So a quick turnaround for Tai. Pavlovich had won that fight in under a minute against Derek Lewis, who was pretty fresh. Well, it was another under a minute fight because Sergey Pavlovich beat the hell out of Tai Tuivasa. His face looked completely beat in, and Pavlovich is one of the scariest dudes in the UFC right now. Incredible punching power, and he just throws shot after shot. And Tai Tuivasa is one of the hardest hitting guys in the UFC, and he could do nothing with him. Incredibly impressive. Back-to-back wins against two, really fan favorites, and Derek Lewis, an all-time, he's got the most knockouts in the history of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So Tai was the number 4 fighter in the world and at heavyweight. Pavlovich was 5. He will take Tai's ranking. So now here's where we stand. So far, what we know is that, according to Ariel Helwani, great Canadian who covers the MMA, Francis Ngannou's contract negotiations are going well, and he actually may be re-signed by the UFC in the not-too-distant future. And with that said, Ngannou will defend his heavyweight championship in March in the first pay-per-view of 2023 in the U.S., because in January there's a pay-per-view in Brazil, and then in February there's one in Australia. So Francis Ngannou will defend his heavyweight title for the first time since January against Jon Jones. I love that fight. I want to see it. I would have preferred to see Jon Jones fight Stipe Miocic, but I don't think Stipe Miocic might just be done with the UFC. That's what I'm coming to the conclusion right now. So then there leaves Curtis Blaydes, who hasn't fought since the Aspinall fight, but he's deserving of a title opportunity. And you have Cyril Gane and Sergey Pavlovich. Here's what I recommend. Curtis Blaydes deserves a title opportunity. I would book the Jon Jones-Francis Ngannou fight, but both these guys are flaky as hell. If Ngannou has an injury or he doesn't sign a contract, then you book Jon Jones versus Curtis Blaydes for the heavyweight championship. Ngannou is stripped of his belt, or it's for the interim, because you can't hold up this division anymore. It's the heavyweight division. It's the most important division in the sport, in my opinion. You cannot hold it up anymore. So you go Curtis Blaydes versus Jon Jones or Curtis Blaydes versus Ngannou. So you have him as the backup, and you can insert him into a title fight against either of the two guys. So that's number one. Have that in March at the UFC 285 pay-per-view alongside Henry Cejudo and Aljamain Sterling as the co-main event. To me, you could book this on the same card. I doubt the UFC would, because I think this is a great fight night card. This is one like you just did with Orlando, where it's not at the stupid Apex, where there's no crowd and there's nothing. Book it somewhere where people will show up. You get Sergey Pavlovich versus Cyril Gane, number 1 contender fight. The winner will face the winner of the aforementioned fight for the heavyweight title later in 2023. Gane only has 1 loss in the UFC, Francis Ngannou, last January. Pavlovich has 1 loss. It was actually to Alistair Overeem. He's no longer in the UFC, but since he's gone through this heavyweight division, he's beaten everybody. Cyril Gane is the next logical step. These two guys need to fight. The winner gets the next shot at the champion at the time. That's how I look at this one. Heavyweight division, how we go forward. Also on the card, Jonathan Pierce, really good lightweight fight. I think he looks good. Dominant win over Darren Elkins. Clay Guida beat Scott Holtzman. Scott Holtzman's going to retire. Great flyweight fight with Schnell and Nkasu. What else? There was some Michael Johnson fight against Diaksu from Canada was really good on the card. Obviously, the headliner was Stephen Wonderboy Thompson against Kevin Holland. To me, it was the fight of the year. It was a banger. It had everything you wanted. Both guys, balls to the wall. Holland actually had to throw in the towel after the fourth round. He was just completely gassed, had a broken hand. Wonderboy's 39 years old. He can still fucking throw. Give him another big fight. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Jorge Masvidal in 2023. UFC Fight Week, maybe? Throw that in the card in July. Maybe you can book it earlier. Masvidal hasn't fought in forever. That's one fight I look into booking. Because guess what, Jorge Masvidal? You are not getting a title opportunity against Leon Edwards because you've lost multiple fights in a row and you don't deserve it. Just be honest. Just be honest here for a second. College football. This is the Final Four as follows. Georgia, after they dominated LSU, scoring 50 points, best team in the country. They have the most clutch quarterback in Stetson Bennett. They got the best tight end in the country in Brock Bowers. Darnell Washington ain't bad either. Best defensive player in Jalen Carter. And there's no debate. They're number one. Number two, Michigan. Michigan beat Purdue pretty soundly. They beat Ohio State. They're undefeated. Absolutely Michigan number two. Number three, and the correct number three, somehow there was debate about this. Number three is TCU. TCU lost over the weekend to Kansas State. Went to overtime. Max Duggan really battled that out. To me, they are the number three team in the country. They have one loss. It was an extra weekend of play. Guess what? Ohio State didn't have to play an extra weekend. Alabama didn't have to play another weekend. You shouldn't benefit and steal somebody's ranking because you didn't play because you weren't good enough to make it to championship weekend. Good for TCU. Good for the committee. There's no debate. People bitching about this. Okay, you want to have your team. You want to have your spotlight game. You either like football or you don't. Turn in to watch the game or don't on New Year's Eve. I'm going to watch the game. It could be anybody fucking playing. It could be Marshall, Coastal Carolina. Guess what? December 19th, there's a bowl game, Marshall against UConn. I'm going to watch that game. I'll be in Florida. Find me a sports bar. I'll go to that game. I'll watch it. Number four, Ohio State. Ohio State is number four because USC lost Friday night to Utah. Utah has won back-to-back Pac-12 titles. Cameron Rising, just a scrappy, good quarterback, and Ohio State sneaks in with their one loss. Right decision. Alabama has two losses. They don't deserve to be in there. Shannon Sharp on Twitter clamoring for Alabama. No, Alabama had no right to even be in the conversation. Quite frankly, Tennessee should have been ranked ahead of Alabama, but they weren't for obvious reasons. So, on New Year's Eve, 5 p.m., it is Michigan, TCU. And then 9 p.m., we have Ohio State and Georgia. Love it. College football semifinals, the national championship will be on January 9th, always a Monday night. So that is what's on the horizon for college football. Now, in the interim, before those big games, it is bowl season, folks. It is bowl season. A number of these, I'm happy to see. Utah's in the Rose Bowl again. They were in it last year and they lost to Ohio State. They really got drubbed, but I think it sparked some of the momentum from that program. They're really starting to find it. They'll be in it again this year, will Utah. So they're back in the Rose Bowl this year. You got Clemson playing Tennessee in a bowl game. That should be a lot of fun. Mentioned UConn, Marshall, a sneaky good bowl game on December 19th. Kansas State will be playing against Alabama. After Nick Saban said on Fox this weekend that Kansas State's not a very good football team. Okay. We'll see, Coach. We'll see. Obviously, Will Anderson might not be playing, and potentially Bryce Young may not be playing either as they get ready for the NFL. But guess what? I don't care. Go beat Kansas. If they're not a good team, you got all those high-value recruits, go beat them. But looking ahead here, college football, I love bowl season. Matt Wright will be on Thursday. We will celebrate bowl season just the right way this week, where Matt Wright and I will talk about all these bowl games. We'll chat about the season as a whole. I know Matt Wright agrees with me on the rankings. Nick Saban can be mad. Ryan Day should be happy that he got in Ohio State. But I will say I think Ohio State and Georgia will be a fun game, and I think that'll be close. So, college football is coming to a close. It's sad. Honestly, it is. It hurts me. It really does hurt me that it's ending because I love watching it. This weekend in college football, Army versus Navy, always a fun game for those two programs to meet. And then bowl season starts. Navy against West Point this weekend. So we're looking forward to that. Tomorrow I'll get to hockey, got some thoughts, but just so much to chat about today when it comes to baseball. I got the UFC today, chatting with NFL, college football. So we'll get into the NHL tomorrow. I'll get some thoughts on a bunch of different teams. And we got some good games in the NHL tonight as well. We got Vegas is in Boston playing the Red Hot Bruins who just keep winning. You got Vancouver and Montreal later tonight. You got Washington playing Edmonton. So some interesting games tonight, to say the least. So we'll chat to you tomorrow. Have a great night. This is To The Point.